Okay, we are going to start with slope of a line. We all know that a line has a slope. No question about that. But there are cases when we can't either define a slope or a slope is just zero. Anytime I talk about a line, I often use the analogy of a ladder. If you take a ladder and lean it against the wall, then that ladder is at a slope. So the ladder pretty much is the line that we are talking about. So if I draw a line of that sort, and that line has a slope, some arbitrary slope. Now I am going to draw another line in red. And another line. So all three lines have slopes. Now, which line has the highest slope? Is it the red one? Is it the gray one? Or is it the blue one, or sort of blue one? Definitely the red line. So the red line has the highest slope. And as the slope increases, the line is going to become more and more vertical. In a similar manner, as the slope decreases, the line would become more and more horizontal. And going back to the ladder case, if I take a ladder and lay it flat on the ground, then that ladder has no slope at all. So a slope of 0 indicates a horizontal line. On the other hand, a slope of upper level math, we call it infinity, but I'll just say an undefined slope indicates a vertical line. So we've got the horizontal line part, the vertical line part, and the line with slopes as it goes closer to the x-axis and as it goes closer to the y-axis. A few other things to note. If the slope is positive, the line is increasing in the sense it's slant upwards. So if the slope is negative, the line is decreasing. In other words, it is slanting downwards. So it seems like the slope plays a significant role in determining the properties of a line. So first off, we've got to know how to find the slope of a line. One key thing to know is that if I want to draw a line on the XY plane, I need to have at least 2 points. If I have a single point, I can't define a proper line. So to draw a line, we need at least 2 points. So to define the slope of a line, we need, 2 points. That would be good enough. I'm going to write the formula, but don't just memorize the formula. Understand why the formula is the way that it is. So I'm going to pick 2 points, x1, y1 on the x-axis. Excuse me, x1, x2 on the x-axis, and y1, y2 on the y-axis. So the way we come up with the slope is to find those 2 lengths. Now, this is what you might have learned earlier in school at rise over run. We're just going to formalize it using x1, y1 and y1, y2, or x2, y2. So what is the rise part? The rise part is the distance between the 2 y points. So y2 minus y1. The run part is the distance between the x points, x2 minus x1. By distance, I simply mean the length between x1 and x2. We find that simply by doing x2 minus x1, and similarly for y, we do y2 minus y1. So the formula naturally would be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And that is it. So if you understand the concept on the right, you don't have to memorize the formula that I just wrote. I don't say any, so let's move on. So find the slope . So we have 2 points, 1 minus 1 and 3, 2. So I am going to call 1 minus 1 as x1, y1, 3, 2 as x2, y2. Do keep in mind, it really doesn't matter as to which point is x1, y1 and which point is x2, y2. You can switch them around. But you do have to keep in mind that if you switch x's, then the y's have to switch and vice versa. I tend to always call the very first point that I see as x1, y1, and the next point as x2, y2. So this slope m is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. y2 is 2 minus, anytime you see a negative number, it is good practice to put that inside parentheses. And x2 minus x1 is 3 minus 1. So we have 2 minus 1 times minus 1 is positive 1 divided by 3 minus 1. So we get 3 divided by 2. The slope is 3 over 2. Slope is positive, so the line is increasing. So now we want to find the slope between 1/2, 1 and 0, 2. As always, I'm going to call the first point as x1, y1, second point as x2, y2. So the slope m is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. y2 is 2, y1 is 1, so we have 2 minus 1, divided by x2 is 0, and x1 is negative 1/2. So 2 minus 1 is 1, negative 1/2, 0 minus negative 1/2 is just negative 1/2. And we just have to flip and multiply. And when we do that, we will have 2 over negative 1, which is negative 2. So we get a slope of negative 2. So the line is decreased. So the slope here is 2, x1, y1, x2, y2. As always, I'm going to call the first point as x1, y1, and the second as x2, y2. y2 is 4, y1 is 2, x2 is 5, and x1 is 4. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and 5 minus 4 is 1, so the slope is 2. The slope is positive, so the line is increasing. The slope here is 0. Let's see how we get that 0. So m is equal to y2 minus y1. So we have 2 minus 2 divided by 11 is x2 minus 7. So 0 divided by 4, which would give us 0. And note the slope here is 0. So the line is horizontal. So the slope of 16 over 0 is in fact correct for this problem. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope m is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we would have 32 minus 16 divided by 4 minus 4. That's great and all. So 32 minus 16 is 16. 4 minus 4 is 0. But that's not equal to 0. And that's not equal to 16. If you have a number, and if you divide by 0, that is undefined. You can verify this easily using your calculator. If you took 16 and if you divided it by 0, then it will say error. And specifically, it would say divide by 0 error. So here we don't have a proper real number as a slope. So it is undefined. And when would this happen? Or what does it mean when it happens? If it happens, then the line is vertical. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So slope m is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So 4 minus 1 over 4 divided by 2 minus 1 over 2. Of course, you can use the calculator to combine the numerator and the denominator because they are just numbers, but understanding the process is crucial so that we can use the same process to combine functions that are simply written in terms of variables. So I want to combine 4 and 1 over 4. It simply means 4 over 1 minus 1 over 4, entire thing divided by 2 over 1 minus 1 over 2. The common denominator that we need is 4 on the top part and 2 on the bottom. To get that, I'm going to multiply and divide the first term by 4. Multiply and divide the first term in the denominator by 2. So I'll have 4 times 4, which is 16, divided by 4, minus 1 over 4. The entire thing divided by 2 times 2, 4 over 2, minus 1 over 2. Now I have common denominators, so I'm going to combine the numerators. 16 minus 1 over 4, entire thing divided by 4 minus 1 over 2. 16 minus 1 is 15 over 4. Denominator 4 minus 1, we get 3 over 2. Fraction over fraction, we flip and multiply. So 15 over 4 multiplied by 2 over 3. The 2 and 4 will get cancelled. The 3 and 5 will get cancelled. So we have 5 over 2. So the slope is 5 over 2, and it is positive. which would imply that the slope is increasing.